Okay, here we go.
Got it. All right. There
Here we
we
go.
are.
Let me pray.
Let's pray.
Father, thanks for another day and thanks for your love for us. Please lead our conversation. Pray that it be helpful for everyone on the call. We love you. Amen.
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 So tell me what you've been thinking since our last call.
Hmm. Hmm.
Am pensato quella.
After
Mhm.
the first call.
Mm.
Um, it's been last week has been quite how you say thoughtful, not thoughtful.
Difficult?
Gave food for thoughts
Oh,
for sure. Yeah, it was good to be refreshed a little bit with our identity in Christ and who we are in Him, and as children and part of the family, but also sent ones. So
yes.
that's been pretty refreshing to
Good,
be in it. Um, so yeah,
Mm.
it was a blessing.
good. Something else from you, others?
Mm.
Any big ideas or big?
No, pretty much what Antonio said. I totally agree with him.
Okay. But you remember we talked about how important that the identity piece is because motivation, the motivation of people's hearts affects everything.
Yeah.
Mm.
If people's hearts are not motivated to, um, live life together like family, it doesn't matter if you teach it and teach it and organize it and organize it. People will not, you know,
Yeah.
people will not do it. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
um, and then, and then also in terms of mission, similarly, we can talk about mission and loving lost people and reaching the lost. We can talk and talk and talk, but if there is not a heart motivation, people won't do it. It's really simple, and it's a struggle. It's a struggle for all of us because life is busy, life is complicated, we get tired, people are difficult, people are difficult to be in relationship with. It's easy just to go home, eat dinner, watch some TV, go back to work the next day,
Mm.
and not
Mm.
think about anybody else, not pray for anybody else, not meet with anybody else. It's very easy for Christians to live that way, me included, you included.
Yeah.
So that's why we need to be encouraging each other in our identity,
Mm.
praying for each other's hearts,
Mm.
praying that we would be motivated,
Mm.
that we would have energy, that we would have compassion, that we would have passion for lost people. We need to be praying for those things as a church.
Mm. Mm.
So part of the encouragement for you is, yes, to teach about these things, but also to pray consistently about these things and to pray for people's hearts.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then to remind people that we don't do it alone,
Mm.
but we do it together.
Mm.
So I think that's a problem or a barrier with many Christians.
Mhm.
They have this idea about mission, but they think about it alone. And they think they must be solo
Mm.
missionaries or
Mm.
solo evangelists.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Lone Rangers.
Yeah, and that feels big and that feels heavy, that feels complicated.
Mm.
Jesus wants us to go together on mission, to go as a community on mission, to go as a family on mission. When we go together as a community, we have motivation, more encouragement, more capacity to love lost people.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, when you're working in your garden or when you're doing a work project. If you need to do it alone, it's exhausting, right?
Mm.
But if one or two friends come along and help you in the garden, or help you fix your car, or help you paint your house, now there's some energy, there's some capacity.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with mission. We have 2, 3, 4, 5 people join us for a meal or for a party or to go to the park or to go to a restaurant or to go to a coffee shop. If we're doing it together, it's much easier, much more enjoyable.
Yeah,
Mm.
that too.
You can share work, you can encourage each other, you can
Yes.
pray for each other.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's part of the challenge, is to say, okay, how do we organize the church to live together like family and to go together consistently on mission? Another problem many churches have is that they do a little bit of mission, maybe once in 3 months or once in 2 months. But we cannot make progress in relationships with lost people one time in 2 months.
Mhm.
If we do that, we will not be friends of sinners. We will only be acquaintances with sinners. That's a big difference. Many churches I work with, they have good relationship with non-Christians, but only like acquaintances, not like friends. If you're an acquaintance with a lost person, you will talk about work, you will talk about food, you will talk about sports, you will talk about politics, you will not talk about spiritual things. So acquaintances talk about fun, superficial things. Friends talk about deeper, more important life things. So we must again encourage each other, encourage the church to say, how do we move our relationships from acquaintance to friend? What do you guys think about that idea? And especially, I'd love to hear feedback about the Italian culture.
Yeah.
And Santo, I'd love to hear from you, bit of an outside perspective, coming from the outside. How are you experiencing these relational dynamics?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big question. I guess I need specific questions.
Okay.
It's very
Okay, I'll give you one. You've been there how long now?
almost a year. April's a year.
Okay, 1 year. How have you think about some of the non-Christians, lost people that you've met, spent time with? I think you talked about some musicians, and how have you experienced the depth of communication? Do you feel like relationships are progressing to that friend place where these relationships are more open, more vulnerable, where you feel like you could ask those people something more significant about their spiritual lives?
Yeah, right, so I'm thinking of different faces, so different people, there are different levels.
Good.
Um, Cousins were my first friends here.
Okay.
And the language barrier is the toughest part.
Yeah.
We've been able to go pretty deep with some of them.
Are most of them Christ followers or
None of them.
nominal Catholic?
Very nominal Catholic. I mean, even more nominal than the nominal Catholics in America, if that makes sense.
I didn't know
No,
that was I didn't know that was possible.
oh, it is because like they'll do like the first Holy Communion like we will, or the confirmation, and they make it like you're almost going to a wedding. Like the cake will be ridiculous, everybody's dressed to the nines and nobody has a clue why we're actually there, you know what I mean, in terms of what any of the
Yeah.
significances are, like for real, and
Yeah.
but they still cling to their identity to a degree.
Mm.
But I found secularism is really deep in their minds and rooted in their hearts, like whatever sickness America has, they really do catch it here.
Mm.
I hate to say that, but I
Yeah,
think it's true.
yeah.
Like whether it's their view of homosexuality or, gay marriage or abortion or these different things. Whereas the old Catholics, like my mom, would have still had some of that,
Yes.
somewhat.
Catholic morals.
Yes, yes. Whereas now it's more like you're behind the times, Santo.
Mm.
Like I had a deep conversation with one of my cousins here, and they said, "But that's old." And I was able to say to them, "Okay, well," so I said to the husband who's married to my cousin,
Yeah.
if she was going with another guy, no problem, right? I said, because thou shalt not commit adultery, that's old, right? And he, he kind of had the big smile, but I mean, so I think, yeah, I mean, what you were saying about eating meals together, being friends, I think, the one thing I've really noticed about Italy, I knew it before coming here full time, and I've only seen it more and more true, is how relational things are here. We were just talking about when you text in America, you say facts, boom, 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 boom. Here in Italy, it's how are you? How's your brother? Like, there's a lot of that because it's the relational part of it is more important.
Yeah.
I mean, at least from
Good.
how I see it.
Good.
How I'm-
Well, that's good news for what we're talking about then.
I think so. I think it's good news. Like, so I have neighbors here,
Mm.
and I feel like some of it's on me how deep I want to go. Just what you said, I'm 57. I've had 3 calls, as pastor. I'm tired sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's not an excuse, but it's much easier to grab some food and put the Netflix on
Yeah.
and basta, tomorrow's a new day.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
but I have found, I think I love the Italian people. I love,
Mm.
I think they're very, in general, very welcoming, and what you've been talking about, I think is very doable because it's very relational.
Yes. Yes.
And I think they eventually ask, what do you do?
Mm.
As a pastor evangelical, and I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
there's talk if you're willing to have a little boldness,
Mm.
in my
Yeah.
opinion. We just came from English class, our first, in a while, our first, what do they call it? English club.
English club.
English
And
club.
it went really well. I mean, a
Good.
couple of non-Christian girls, right?
Mhm.
Who were very open because
Good.
relationally hitting it off. So I think, anyway, I'm talking too much, but that's my
No,
perspective.
good.
Mm.
Good. Perfect.
Mm.
Well, it's good to hear that the culture is relational and there's a
Mhm.
desire, yeah, for relationship and, good communication.
Mm.
So then the question,
With some, I can't say with everybody, but with some.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in fact, I would agree with that some, because Santo comes with a charge of well, let me say this. It's gonna sound weird. I mean, he's attractive, but not in the sense that you guys, not in the sense that you guys mean, but like as a foreigner, Italians feel more attracted to foreigners.
Mm.
but also
Mhm.
they will feel like they can open more
It's true.
to a foreigner because it's more safe
It's
to
true.
be
Okay.
known by a foreigner.
Mhm.
Whereas I found, as an Italian, I find that's what's lacking the most nowadays. It's that we don't go deep in
Mm.
relationships.
Mm.
We're
Really?
pretty, yeah,
Mm.
we're pretty happy to say hi, to go grab a
It's true.
beer, but then when it comes down to get known, to be known, and to know the other, yeah,
Mm.
it's and especially I would say especially after COVID. I don't want to say before it wasn't like this,
Yeah.
but even after COVID, there's been, I mean, people are living like little islands.
Mm.
I
Really?
was, yeah,
Mm.
and so they're pretty content with staying at home and it's for the majority that I know.
Yeah. Interesting.
I think the reason why it's so hard to go deeper is still for the concept we took in the last week, bella figura.
Mm.
You don't wanna unveil what's under the surface.
Yes.
You don't want to be judged or
Yeah.
whatever it can
Mhm.
come from.
Yeah.
You want
Yep.
to share the ugly side of you, but
Yep.
even if you should know that no brother and sister in Christ would judge you. But I think the society here, like the
That's
culture,
true, at large.
yeah,
And I would say that the older you get, the more difficult it is to get new friends.
Yeah.
Most people will hang out with friends from school,
Mm.
from like high school or college, but it's very difficult for them to make new friends. Even
Okay.
even in the, that I'm saying this is also in the church.
Mm.
Like see the people from our church hang out with their old friends, maybe like from school or whatever. But now they're getting to know more people. But I don't see in them the desire to hang out just for the fun of it.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, yeah, it's like, okay, this is church. This is church meeting. This is, I don't know, Tuesday Bible study. But
Yep.
then after that, it's like we all live apart the rest of the week after we meet on Sundays. You
Yep.
know, it's like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So far, I haven't seen at large. Maybe some people do it, but not. I mean, I would say the majority doesn't. Like they
Okay.
don't call each other. And I was just reading the documents and say like, you know, to live life together, like, you know, to do things just for the sake of it, just to be with each other.
Yes.
And I don't see this. I do not see
Okay.
it.
Okay. Good. That's helpful.
Can I
Alessia,
add my interpretation?
Alessia, I'd love to hear
Hi.
your perspective.
Yeah, thanks. I agree. I agree on what Antonio said about, for example, going out like a group, let's say, of friends out of church. For example, well, what I mean is like we don't hang out like a group apart from, for example, Tuesday we have like a GC group, gospel community group,
Okay.
and so we are together then. But I feel like also like yeah, would be good if people would have just also befriend one another, just one to one as well. So maybe it's also easier to go deeper. But it's also my way to do things. So
Yeah.
and and also I read somewhere that to be acquaintances with someone you should have like 50 hours to spend with that person, and
Okay.
then to be friends like 150. Obviously, it's not like I've been in school with people and I've been with them lots of hours, but it
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
mean that we're friends.
Good.
So what I mean by that is also like have the will to spend that time together with the person. Like
Good.
so, but this is among like Christian and Christian. Um, like instead, so because I think you're talking about more like Christian and non-Christian relationship, right?
Well, but both. Yeah, I mean, yeah, keep going, because I think
Okay.
what you're saying is important in both,
Mm.
in both
Areas.
types of relationships.
So, um,
Oh, she froze.
Oh,
Was that
no.
us?
Oh no.
yeah,
She's back. She's back.
yeah, on my
Whoops.
Oh,
sorry, on my like I try to have relationship one-to-one because I feel like they last instead of a group relationship that is group oriented.
yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I mean internally in the church. And Antonio was right, it's difficult to make new friends like anyhow, like for example, I work as a nurse and my coworkers wants to know more about like me or you're evangelic. So yeah, I'm yeah. So you're right. It's difficult to follow someone just on your own. So it's
yeah,
good to bring people to church so other people can get to know them and so like to to have a relationship as well.
yeah,
And yeah, and I wanted to say also another thing that also as Nunzia was saying, I mean, um, I always for myself I open up with people in the church because I feel also much safer. Like it's not something that I it's instinct, like because I know like I feel like that the people going to church, it's more difficult. They would be harsh on you. Let's
yeah,
say that, but also that can be like it can be the case. Obviously, no one is perfect.
yeah, yeah,
And also, I wanted to say a very good thing I read. If you open up with someone else, the other person is much more like it's
Likely.
easier that the other person opens up with you.
to
So
you.
we can start from ourselves.
Good, good. Yep, very good ideas. Let me comment on a few of those, actually. Welcome, Danilo. Um, yeah, we're talking about relational dynamics in Italian culture, things that are difficult, why it's difficult to go deep into people's lives. Nuzzi again said bella figura, which is so one of the things we talked about this last time, but I want to encourage you guys. I think you really need to preach and teach on that idea sometime in the next 3 to 6 months, please. It seems like a critical idea here.
Yeah, big time.
And if bella figura, if people are resistant to opening their lives, that is really a gospel issue
Mm.
because we have nothing to hide. We, because of Jesus' work for us on the cross, we have his righteousness. There is nothing in our story that has not been redeemed. He has redeemed every ugly part of our story. Every part, he's redeemed it. When we are in Christ, God sees nothing of our past. He only sees Jesus and his righteousness and who he is. We basically take on Jesus' identity.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. But unfortunately, like you're saying, I think many people don't know that, they don't understand that, they don't believe that, and they don't live like that practically. So please begin preaching and teaching more about that, because it will change how people relate.
Mhm.
And then I loved what Alessia just said. If you as leaders will begin to be open and vulnerable in talking about some of your ugly parts, you will create a culture in your churches where it's normal. Where it's normal, and where bella figura is defined not by your past, but is defined by Jesus. Wow, what a difference. So now we look at each other, even inside the church, in terms of Jesus and his righteousness, and that our past has been forgiven, our past has been redeemed, that we are new creations, we are new in Christ, we have a new identity. The old has gone, the new has come. When we get that, now we can relate like family, like good family. Now we can go deep. Now we can be vulnerable. What do you want to say, Antonio?
No, I have a question for you. Because yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you with that. Going deep, sometimes it's a gospel issue. Not sometimes, it is a gospel issue, that's it.
Yeah, not
Uh,
sometimes. Actually,
it is always a gospel issue.
always a
Sure.
gospel issue.
What I was thinking is that I see in people very little desire to actually because relationships are uh, almost like a discipline. It takes
Yep.
discipline
Yep.
to nurture and actually and I see people more and more just giving up. Like they're totally content on being superficial on the Sundays and live their whole life during the week. You know, even in the church. I'm not just
Yeah,
talking about like, outside, okay?
Yeah.
But like in the church, how would you suggest like that we, you know, obviously by the help of the Holy Spirit, we can have people grow in this the understanding of the need of relationship and maybe even grow their desire and their longing to have it.
Yeah.
Because they have the longing, but they don't know. It's like they don't know they have it.
Yeah.
They long community. They long to be known, but it almost looks like they don't know.
What I would say to that is that, so again, we talked about, the gospel issue, but I would also say that there's a discipleship issue here. It's possible to disciple people into living this way, even people that are far from it. I lived in Romania. Yes. When I first moved to Romania, Romania was probably similar to Italy. People were not very open. They were closed. They were not vulnerable. The churches were very traditional, very formal. So we said, okay, so how do we change that? Well, we started to create a culture in the church where people could experience and practice a different way of relating. So we would invite people into our home very often, and we would eat together, and we would very quickly begin to share our lives, open, vulnerable, and we would ask them questions about their life. And it was not comfortable. It was not comfortable for them in the early years because it was new. It was new, it was different, it was strange. But then, after time, again, another meal, another conversation, going deep, being open, asking good questions, it became more and more normal. And today, many of these Christians in Romania live very different. And I think they're pretty similar to you, okay? They're Latin, they're Latin culture, Latin blood, Latin history.
Yeah.
I think the Romanians are quite similar to you. And actually, yeah, the Orthodox history in Romania is very similar to the Catholic history in Italy. Very formal, very nominal, Santo. Everybody in Romania is a nominal Orthodox. But if you're in an evangelical church, you're a nominal or traditional Baptist or traditional Pentecostal. Those are the two big denominations, Baptist, Pentecostal. But very formal, very traditional, very legalistic. But the good news, we have seen many of them change. But what was required was prayer, the gospel, and practicing the things we're talking about here. Practice, 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 practice. So how do we do that? I like what Alessia was saying. It takes work, and it takes planning, and it takes commitment. It's easier to go home, and I think you said it, Antonio, to live in your own little island, to live your own little private life. That's easy. But that's not the gospel. That's not what Jesus has called us to. He's actually called us to hard work, to laying down our lives and taking up our cross. How do we do that practically in relationship? So sorry, let me finish, Alessia. But I want to hear.
Sorry, but I thought it was a real question.
I want to hear your ideas. So to do this, I think we need to create a culture in the church, even on Sunday morning, that is more open and more vulnerable and more like family. Even on Sunday morning with the big group. But then when you get in your gospel communities, your smaller groups, which you described, Alessia, again, you must move away from formal, traditional, superficial. You must go informal, relational, vulnerable, open, like family, in your homes, around the table, while you're eating. Okay? But then let me add one more piece. I sent you guys a document talking about 3 types of relational structures. And Alessia, you're gonna like one of these. Okay? We didn't talk about it last time. Okay? A normal gospel community or small group usually has 8, 10, 12, 14 people. That's a normal small group. It's true around the world, South America, South Africa, okay? Everywhere you go. In those 8 to 10 to 12 to 14 people, you have men and you have women, both. That's normal. And we need that. We need the 8 to 10 to 12, and we need men and women together, learning, growing, challenging. But I believe we need a third type of structure, a third type of relational experience, and that is this idea of a DNA group. We need it. It's essential. It's not optional. You need it. I need it. People in your church need it. Men need it. Women need it. Older people need it. Younger people need it. The idea is that a few people, 3 or 4, men with men, women with women, are meeting minimum of 2 times in a month to go deep, 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 deep with each other. To go deep in a way that you cannot go deep with 8 or 10 or 12 people, right?
Right.
There's limits to it.
Mhm.
8, 10, 12 people, there's limits.
Mhm.
When you have men and women together, there are limits. There are many things that women will not talk about with men present. There are many things that men will not talk about with women present. That's why we do DNA. It's small, 3 to 4. It's women with women, so you can be very open, very vulnerable, very personal, very specific about women's things. Same with the men. Men can talk about difficult things just with men, 3 to 4 men. It's a very powerful experience. And it's absolutely essential. I'm convinced. I've been working with churches in this way around the world for many years, and consistently they tell me when we started DNA groups, it changed many things in our church.
Mhm.
Changed the depth of our relationship, the quality of our relationship, but also then made our gospel communities better because people had deeper relationship parallel to their gospel community. So DNA is not a separate thing from your gospel community. It's connected to your gospel community. It's just a different way of relating with those in your gospel community. So you don't have one group of people here and a separate DNA. It's not that. You organize the people in your gospel community into smaller DNAs.
Okay.
So Alessia, we'll say you're in a gospel community of 10 people with 4 men and 6 women. We would organize 1 DNA for the 4 men and 2 DNAs for the 6 women. 3 women in
Yeah.
one DNA, 3 women in another DNA. And 2 times in a month, they're going to meet together and they're going to go deep into each other's stories. They're going to talk about what shaped their lives, who shaped their lives, the good things that shaped their lives, and the difficult things that shaped their lives. Many times in my DNAs, we've talked about our parents. How our parents influenced in a good way, how our parents influenced in a bad way. Very powerful.
Mhm.
If we had brothers or sisters, we would talk about how they shaped us in a good way, but also how they shaped us in a bad way.
Mm.
We'll talk about our friends. Shaped us in a good way, shaped us in a bad way. When we went to university, what shaped us in a good way, what shaped us in a bad way. You get the idea. Very powerful. Because now that we know each other and we know what shaped us, next month, when Alessia is struggling with hope or she's struggling with anxiety, we will probably know why. We know that Alessia is struggling with fear towards her boss, because it's connected somehow with her father and what she experienced with her father when she was a child, what she experienced with her father when she was a teenager, what she experienced with her father when he was disappointed with where she was going to university, or the fact that her father was disappointed that she was becoming a nurse. So what she's experiencing today will be connected to something in her past. It's true for all of us. Decisions I make today are often connected with something in my past story. But let me ask all of you, how well do you know the past stories of Christians in your church? Usually not very well. I work with churches all around the world, and they tell me not very well. Let me go further. How well do you know those stories of non-Christians that you work with? Alessia, you're a nurse at the
Yeah,
clinic.
I
the-
just started the on but I need to say this time I know more about my coworkers because we have more time to talk than other places sometimes where I worked. Actually, I would say I was very lucky, but I will say I was quite blessed. God like opened doors for me to talk about Him and what the evangelical church is, because it's not everyone knows me.
Oh yeah,
And so like
most people in Italy do not know.
no, but the fact is that I was surprised because one of my coworkers said her mom went to evangelical church and some other people. So like there is something in like so I was surprised, and I'm really glad that I have opportunities to talk about the gospel.
Good. Well, again, all of you, those opportunities, and actually, I was thinking we would talk about some things today, and then if you want to meet again, I really want to focus actually on this idea of how do we build these deeper relationships. I want to talk about how to do it next time. Today, I really wanted to highlight or emphasize the need to do it. Okay? Because if we don't, we will not see Christians discipled well, because healthy discipleship must be connected to our stories. It's not just facts. Discipleship is not just information. It's not just Bible knowledge. Healthy discipleship must be rooted in our stories. It's rooting the truth of the gospel in our stories, because our stories are filled with broken pieces that need redemption. So this idea of going deep into each other's stories is critical for discipleship with Christians and critical for mission to non-Christians. So next time we meet, if you want to meet again, we will talk most of the time about this story idea. Okay? But to get there, again, we must we must be teaching and reminding and encouraging our people in their identity, in Jesus calling on our lives to be family, to be brothers and sisters, to be sons and daughters. So that must be happening inside the church. And then outside the church, like Alessia with your nurse friends, you must be asking the question, how do those relationships move from acquaintance to friend? If they don't move to friendship, if they don't move to trust, they usually will not move to Jesus.
Mm.
Acquaintances will not talk to you about spiritual things, usually. Acquaintances won't. Which unfortunately is what we see with most Christians and most churches. They have many acquaintances, very few friends. And then churches tell me, why don't we have more opportunities to talk about Jesus? Why don't we see more opportunities? Why don't we see more people coming to Jesus? Why? And I think it's pretty clear. It's because most of your relationships are acquaintances with your neighbors, with your coworkers, with people at the fitness place or the coffee shop. They're only acquaintances.
Mm.
Danilo, you've been very quiet. Speak to me.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about that. Well, one thing is that we have this idea in our vision and mission of the church to be disciples who makes disciples who makes disciples. So this is something very familiar, and we tried several things, and also I'm very familiar with the idea of having a small group of 2 or 3 people and share the lives with them, or having them share the lives with you. But at the same time, I would say that something that maybe I need, it's a challenge for me to be not discouraged and to endure in doing this, because sometimes is when you see that they're still struggling with the open up, or they lack they don't trust you, or they're hiding things, is something that you say, well, again, or it's something that you are not really motivated to continue in doing this. And the other thing is when it seems that you feel that you are alone. And the third thing is several times we preached in passages like Matthew 28. Again, last Sunday I preached on that passage, and again, I felt like it seems that is the new time that I'm going to say that Christianity is not just on Sunday. It's about relationship. It's about discipleship. We are not called to make converts. We are not to make just new believers. We are going to make disciples. And so it's something that I don't know. Sometimes I'm feeling like I don't know how to say that. I don't know how to live out this truth in a different way, because it seems that there is a wall in front of you, and
well, let me encourage you. You've got you've got to keep teaching about it and reminding people every week.
Mhm.
My church that I'm part of here, we're about 10 years old, the church. And people forget. I forget. People need to be, so literally we
I would say
preach.
I forget.
I know. But
and this is something that I'm telling people every time. No, we need
Good.
to preach the gospel to ourselves every day.
Good.
And because it's easy to forget the basic truth, and it's something that is very important. Maybe of course we are saved once, but we need to remember the beauty, the power, the strength of the gospel in our lives. And again, no, reminding about the resurrection in this time, how the resurrection is the motor of our mission,
Good.
But sometimes it seems that, oh my goodness,
Yes,
Lord, please.
Yeah.
I don't know
Amen.
how to say that, and I don't know how to leave that in other ways. Please do something, because I'm tired.
Yep, I understand. Amen. But let me encourage you, week in and week out, don't stop saying what you just said to me. Your people need to hear that in some form every week. So our preachers have become very good at finishing every sermon, finishing every teaching with what you just said, so that our people hear it every week. Every week. It's about the gospel. It's about Jesus. It's about his life and his resurrection, us going to work like that, us living in our neighborhood like that, us going to school like that, us being nurses like that, us being teachers like that. But I would say help your people see it practically for their lives. So an example, Danilo, would be to say, hey, I know Alessia over here. I know she's a nurse. She goes to the clinic, she goes to the hospital, wherever she's nursing. What would it look like for a nurse to live this way at the hospital? And for you to describe practically for your people what it would look like for a nurse to go to work at the hospital in light of the gospel. Help your people in the practical details, or to go to work as a teacher in light of the gospel, or as a computer programmer in light of the gospel, or a businessman, or in light of the gospel. Give them very specific, very clear ideas. Okay? That's the first thing. Second thing, I would say again, I want to bring us back to the DNA idea. You've really got to take this seriously. And we can talk about this more next time. Okay, like how to function in a DNA, because it's actually very closely connected with my other idea of how do we go deep into each other's stories. Okay, so we can talk about that next time. But you must take it seriously. If you don't, I cannot help you. Because your people must learn to relate in this way that is deep, vulnerable, specific. That's what DNA is. If they learn to do it in their DNA, they will do it at home. They will do it at work. They will do it at the coffee shop. They will do it at the hospital. They'll do it at the football pitch. They will do it in all of their life, but they will learn to do it in DNA.
What do you
DNA
say
DNA is
stands?
DNA is the training ground. Do you understand?
Mm.
That's where they learn to play. That's where they learn to play, is in the DNA. And then they go from the DNA out into the world or out into the church, and they relate in healthy, gospel-centered, practical ways. Sorry, Alessia, what's your
What DNA stands for deep?
that'd be a good one. It stands for discover.
Yeah.
Discovering truth together, discovering the gospel together. Nurture, that's talking about nurturing. You know that word in English? Nurturing the heart. What's that word, Antonio, in Italian? Nurture.
Nutrire.
Nutrire, yeah.
Nutrire il cuore.
Yeah.
Very important, because at the beginning, you remember I talked about the importance of the heart and how we live out of the overflow of the heart. So we must learn to nurture each other's hearts with the gospel. It's what you were saying, Danilo.
Yeah.
We need to do that from the pulpit as we preach and teach, but we must also do it in DNA. You'll like this, Alessia. It's almost like the work of a nurse or a surgeon. We're doing work of the heart with the gospel, like a good nurse, like a good surgeon.
Yeah.
We're saturating people's hearts with the gospel. Okay? The A, DNA, stands for action and accountability. In light of the truth of the gospel, in light of that being nurtured into each other's hearts, how will we obey? What's the action step that Jesus desires? How do we go to work in light of the gospel? How do we go to the school in light of the gospel? How do we live in the neighborhood in light of the gospel? Go to the coffee shop in light of the gospel? Go to the market in light of the gospel? What is the action? What is the obedience? And then how will we keep each other accountable to that? DNA. Okay, one last thing I wanted to be clear about. Let's go back to this idea with non-Christians. How do relationships move from acquaintance to friend? They do that through consistency and focus. Alessia, you go to the hospital or the clinic, there are many people there. You cannot become friends with all of them.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
You cannot.
But I can talk about the gospel to everybody.
Maybe you can preach. Maybe you can preach it at the hospital. But how many can you become trusted friends with at the hospital? Smaller number.
Well, I'm not sure because till now I never been like real friend with my coworker. But maybe this time can be different.
Yes,
I
yes.
guess there are some there are few like people or one person in particular. I don't know.
Good.
Anyway, we'll see. We can pray
Good.
about that.
Good, and I like your attitude. Okay, but let me encourage you with this consistency and focus. Your small groups, your gospel communities must be clear about who are the lost people God has sent you to. I don't believe it's 100 people. I don't believe it's 50 people. That's too many. I believe each of your gospel communities must have 10 or 12 lost people that you believe God has sent you to love and serve and influence. They are the good soil He wants you to plant gospel seed with. But do you see how important this is? So Danilo, many churches, this might be your church, they talk about mission, they preach about mission, but when they think about mission, it's too big. It's too general. It's not focused enough. So each of your small groups should have 10 or 12 people that they're committed to becoming friends of sinners with. And that doesn't mean that you close yourself off to everybody else. It's not that, okay? It's not that. But it's saying we have limited time, limited energy. Which people will get our focused time? Which people will get our focused energy? And our small group has, so then when the weekend comes, your small group is saying, who do we invite to the meal? Who do we invite to the party? Who do we invite to the park? Who do we invite for coffee? You invite the 10 to 12. And next week, who do you invite? The same 10 to 12. And the big football game between Italy and Spain, who do you invite? The same 10 to 12. And some of those 10 to 12 are Alessia's nursing friends. A few of them are Nuzi's work friends. A few of them are Santo's music friends. And a few of them are Antonio's neighbors.
And Danilo?
He doesn't do it.
He doesn't have any friends.
Yeah, I don't have any friends.
He's just gonna
And
work.
I'm just going to Santos concert and stop. No other events, please.
Bravo, bravo.
He's just gonna help you love your friends.
That's right.
No. But do you see the importance of this? Planting gospel seed in a focused, consistent way in the lives of 10 to 12 people. So you get to the end of the year, and you can see like, wow, we are really good friends with them. They consider us their friends. They trust us. We know their lives. We know their stories. We have had spiritual conversations with them. They know about our church. They know what it means to be an evangelical Christian. They know the difference between that and a Catholic, because we've talked about it this year. At that meal or at that party, because we've become trusted friends with them. Okay? Any final questions?
Well, I have a question, but probably it's gonna be developed next time we see.
Okay.
And it's about how to launch DNA groups, basically.
Okay. Yeah. Good for next time. Next time, DNA and how do we go deep into each other's stories? Most Christians around the world do not do it well.
Mm,
It's not just an Italian thing.
no, definitely not.
You know,
True in Spain and true in Denmark and everywhere I work.
Mm.
It's one of the main things that I help churches with. Because if you can learn to do it, help your people learn to do it, it will change the Christian to Christian relationships. And it will change the Christian to non-Christian relationships. Okay.
In the meantime, can I ask you a question? And then it's probably very fast. Do you have like material books that you recommend that will help us? Because I've read probably half the Gospel Fluency book. I found it was a really good book. Do you recommend any other books or materials that are like oriented on that kind of thing, like how to apply the gospel to on the specifics? You know what I mean?
You know,
Which I
unfortunately, there is not a lot.
yeah.
There isn't a lot has not been written. That's much more needs to be written about those things.
Right.
Probably one of one of the authors that I respect the most is Paul Tripp.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So he's written many things, and he does a very good job of rooting it in the gospel and talking about gospel relationships. And so he would be
A way to go.
he'd be probably the first one that I would send you to.
Yeah.
Paul Tripp, Tim Keller.
Mhm.
But Paul Tripp is a little more practical and a little easier to read.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Do you have a way, do you have a one-to-go book that you recommend about this stuff? About Paul Tripp, from Paul Tripp.
Yeah, let me think about it, and I'll
Great.
I'll email you guys, and I will send you I'll send you a DNA to look at, a DNA thing to look at before next time,
Okay.
and a story thing to look at before next time. You translated one of them.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about the translation on WhatsApp. Maybe.
Okay. And let me know when you would like to meet again.
Well, I know that Daniela's gonna be away next week, right?
We could go 2 weeks out.
Right.
Anyway, send me a date, send me a time.
Awesome.
But we could do similar day time 2 weeks from now if you want to.
Great. Amen.
Okay.
But
So thank you very much.
Talk and confirm that with me, okay?
Thank you.
Yes, you are welcome.
Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
Bye.
Thank you for your comments and questions. Like I love how you're working on this and thinking hard and serious about wanting this for your people. I love that.
Sure. Yeah. Thank
Keep
you.
wanting it for your people. Keep Danilo, keep preaching about it with your people.
Va bene, I'll do it.
But next time, hopefully we can make some progress with how do we organize it so that our people can practice it and really grow in it. Okay? Okay. Awesome. I will send you the recording also, okay?
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. Take care.